I'm Chef Frank, this is Protocooks, and today we're making my favorite pie, lemon meringue. And as a reminder, if you like what we're doing here, hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends, and as always, the recipe's in the description down below. I love pie. Nobody else in my house likes pie, so I rarely have it in the house. My favorite pie is lemon meringue pie. I remember being a kid and being obsessed with lemon meringue pie. I'm not a baker, okay? I'm a chef, I do savory food, but baking is something that I really enjoy, and it's more of a hobby than it is a profession for me. So forgive me just a little if I don't get everything right. And because I'm not a baker, I love to hear from people who are. Leave some comments down below. Tell me how I can improve. Tell me what I did right. But I love to hear from you guys, so hit me up in the comments down below. All right, here's what I got for today. I have Nilla wafers that are just a vanilla cookie, and they're ground up. I have salt, sugar, lemons. You gotta use fresh lemons for this, guys. You can't buy this stuff in the bottle. It's not good. Sugar. Did I say sugar already? I need sugar in two different places. Cornstarch, butter, eggs, water, and cream of tartar. The first thing we want to do is make the crust. Traditionally, this crust is just a pie crust that's blind baked, which means it's baked without anything in it. I really don't like that for this pie. I like to do a cookie crust. And I use Nilla wafers or vanilla cookies. I put them into my Cuisinart or Robocoo, whatever you got. If you don't have a machine like this, you can take these cookies, put it in a Ziploc bag, take all the air out and kind of roll over with a rolling pin or hit it with a meat mallet or something like that and crack them up. So all you gotta do is buzz these up until they're a fine powder. So if you have any big chunks in there, usually what I do is I'll just break them up by hand and pulse again. All right, let's put that aside and get everything else we need to make the crust. So here we go. The crumbs go into a bowl. I add some sugar, just a little granulated sugar. I'm gonna just mix these together. And then just some melted butter. I use unsalted butter. We don't really need the extra salt here. Mix it together until you get a nice texture. All the breadcrumbs, all the cookies are coated with butter. And then this goes directly into our pie dish. I'm using a glass pie dish. I like the glass pie dishes. I like the look of it. I like the size of it. If you have a metal pie dish, use a metal pie dish. What I like to use for this is an old measuring cup. And I just use this because it has a flat base. And I start to just push down the center to a nice thickness, right? And just pack it down slightly. You don't want the pie crust to be too thick, so you can kind of feel around. And then I start to just kind of like push the sides in with this too. But I try and pack it in there pretty good so that it holds together. Okay, so the crust is in there. We're gonna put it in 350-degree oven for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna let it cool. Next thing we gotta do is make the filling, and the filling is gonna start with us separating eggs. And we have 4 eggs. We're gonna use 4 yolks for the filling and 4 whites for the meringue. And you have to be sure that when you do the meringue, right? We're not doing the meringue now, but we're separating the eggs, that this bowl doesn't have any fat in it. You can't have any grease in it. It needs to be really clean. And that you don't get any egg yolk into the meringues. If you do, the meringue won't get nice and fluffy and it won't beat up. So just be really careful when you separate your eggs. And this is how I do it. Crack my egg on the counter. And then I just let the white fall into my mixing bowl, back and forth between my shells. And the yolk goes into my other bowl. Crack it. I try not to crack on the side of my bowl because little micro fragments of shell tend to get in there. And I don't want that. I don't want any shell in this. Usually helps if your eggs are room temperature and not cold. But if all you have is cold eggs, that's fine. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the whites, put them aside for later. And we're going to start with the yolks. All right, crust is done. Going to put it on the rack and let it cool. We got one more thing to do before we assemble the filling, and that is squeeze our lemons and get some zest off of them. In order to get the zest off the lemons, I use a microplane, which is like a fine rasp, and it gets off just the outer rind. And that's all we want with this. And it's easier to zest these now while they're whole before we cut them to squeeze them. So I just put this over the cup, and I only want to get the nice yellow rind off, so I just do one swipe. And if you look at that, I'll just do another swipe. I keep turning my lemon, and I'm not getting any of the white. I'm just getting that beautiful yellow zest. And I'm going to do the whole lemon this way. Just one swipe gets all of that zest off. If you do more than one, you're getting the pith. And the pith is bitter. Good, I think I got everything. Give it a tap, and you'll see my lemon is completely zested for the most part, and I have this really beautiful bright rind in there. If you spilled any, make sure you get it into the cup. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze some lemon juice. And I just squeeze the lemons in. I'm not worried about seeds because I'm going to strain the filling after it's cooked. So I'm not worried about the zest. I'm not worried about the seeds. And I'm just squeezing the lemon, okay? If I do it right into my measuring cup, I don't have to like measure it later. It just goes right into the cup, and I can just keep squeezing until I have the right amount. But for the most part, I need about a half a cup. I need one more. So I needed another half a lemon. I did 3, and I needed at least another half because those other 3 weren't all that juicy. If you have a little extra lemon juice, it's not a big deal. Let's assemble the filling. I have sugar and yolks, and I'm just going to take about 1/3 of my sugar and whisk it into the yolks. So what this is going to do is that when we cook the yolks, the sugar will help protect them from curdling. So I'm just going to give it a quick whisk, and I'm going to put that aside, okay? And now we're going to cook. All right, so the water goes in the pot. I'm going to throw my sugar in, the rest of my sugar, my salt. You always need a little salt because salt is a flavor enhancer. I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to add my cornstarch. Get it all in there. I got a whisk. I'm going to start whisking this together, right? So this is going to thicken up and basically be the base of this filling, right? And I'm using the whisk because if there's any like clumps of cornstarch, I want to break that up. And what we want to do is just kind of bring this up to a light simmer. So I have it on high heat, and once I see that it starts to get hot and start to thicken a little, I'm going to lower it down. I also have a spatula to get into the corners if I need to, but right now it doesn't seem like it's starting to stick in the corners. Cornstarch is a thickener that really doesn't activate until you get it hot or bring it to a simmer. Okay, I can see it. I can even feel it starting to get a little thick. And it's going to get fairly clear. It'll go from opaque to just slightly clearer. And that's what I'm looking for. It's nice and thick. So look what happened, right? It went from kind of watery, and now it's like nice and thick, right? So what I'm going to do with some of this thick liquid is I'm going to add it to my yolks. And this is kind of like I'm tempering it. I'm going to add it to my yolks and kind of warm my yolks up a little so that they don't curdle when I put them into the mixture. Okay, so this goes right back in, scrape it all out. And this is actually what gives it its nice yellow color. Like everyone thinks it's the lemon that gives it the yellow color, but for the most part it's the yolks. And we're gonna whisk these in, and you can bring this back up to a light simmer, right? So the eggs have the sugar in them, so they shouldn't curdle. The cornstarch also helps it from not curdling. I'm gonna get my spatula, get into my corners, so if there's any like loose, kind of still kind of clear filling. Okay, so it's come to a nice thickness that I want. I'm gonna just give it another minute to kind of like let it set, make sure my yolks are cooked. There you go. It's thickened a little. Heat off. At this point is when we add the lemon juice and lemon zest and our butter. Right, we're going to add some butter. Butter gives nice flavor. It also improves the texture a little. Heat is off, and we're just going to stir this in really well. And we're basically going to stir it until the butter melts totally. Make sure you get it everywhere. I lost a piece of butter here. My counter's clean, so it's going in. I got my crust. My filling is done. I'm going to put my filling through a strainer, and I'm just going to put it, this is called a chinois. We use these in the restaurant. It's a very fine mesh strainer. I'm going to put my filling through, and the cup is just here to catch anything that kind of goes through before I put it into the pie. So let's dump this straight in. Get everything out. You want all of it in there, right? Scrape it real good. It's important to do this while the filling is hot because if you don't, it starts to set up and it's really hard to work with. My crust is still a little warm, and that's okay. The crust being a little warm actually helps them kind of bind together. And all I'm going to do with this is move this over here. I'm going to start pushing this through. This is going to get all the seeds out that I was talking about earlier. I get my spatula, get everything off the sides here. Look at that. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Silky texture, right? So get it off everything that you can. Try and get it all out, right? That can go here. Get the rest of the filling that kind of went through into the cup. All right. Filling is done and it's in our pie crust. Smooth it out a little. It should go almost up to the top of the crust. So it's in there. Give it a shake. I get some plastic wrap, some nice commercial plastic wrap. I'm gonna cut a piece, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it directly on top. I'm gonna push it down directly on top of the filling, and this is gonna stop it from getting a crust, right? And if this gets crusted over, I find that the meringue doesn't stick as well. So put it down on top. I promise you, once it's cool, it'll peel off and we won't lose any of that filling. This goes in the fridge until it's set and cool. And in the meantime, we'll make our meringue. The last step in this process is making the meringue. And this to me is probably the more tricky part of the whole process because we're making an Italian meringue. If you do an Italian meringue, it stays light and fluffy. It doesn't deflate. It doesn't get watery, but it's like super stable meringue. And that's why I like to do this and take the time to do it right, okay? So I have my sugar. I'm gonna put a little water in there. And I'm gonna put this on and bring it to a boil. Our sugar syrup is boiling for a minute or two, or maybe like 4 to 5 minutes. I take the lid off, and now I'm just going to check the temperature. Give it a little stir. I'm at about 220 degrees. So I'm going to start my my whites. I add my cream of tartar. And if you don't have cream of tartar, you can always use just a little bit of lemon juice. This is just acid. I'm gonna whip these to soft peaks. I want it to be soft, light, fluffy peaks. Okay, we're at 240. I shut my heat off. I turn my egg whites onto high. And I'm going to take this sugar syrup and run it down the side of my bowl, not into the whisk. Right down the side of the bowl. I don't want it to go into the whisk. Nice and slow and easy. Good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this whip until I can't feel any more heat on the bowl. All right, our meringue is done. So it's ready to go. It's pretty cool to the touch. It's not hot anymore. I'm going to take it off the machine, move my machine over, and look at that. It's just like super light and fluffy. It's kind of marshmallowy, right? It's not as stiff as a marshmallow, but it has the same kind of flavor and texture as a marshmallow. And that's a meringue. Let's assemble this pie. Okay, time to assemble the pie. Look how happy I am. I'm like glowing. I'm so happy. We take off the plastic wrap. There's a little bit of the filling in there, but it's not a lot. Okay, and we're gonna take this beautiful kind of white, fluffy Italian meringue, and we're gonna plunk it on top. Okay, this is a lot of meringue, right? I like the fact that there's a big, pillowy kind of floof on the top of this, and I'm not really going to do anything too fancy. So I'm just gonna smash it down just a little. And what I like to do is just use the edge of the pie plate to kind of seal it all up. What's great about the Italian meringue too is that it doesn't deflate all that much, right? It keeps its kind of fluffiness, right? So I'm just gonna like kind of do little swirlies. Again, I'm not a pastry chef or a baker really. I'm just gonna try and like make it pretty as I possibly can. And then I get to blowtorch. Right? I get to blowtorch this. Now, I'm a chef, I have a blowtorch. These are really cheap, you can find them online. I will link it in the description. If you don't have a blowtorch, turn your broiler on low. You can throw this under the broiler and just brown in the broiler. You just gotta watch it. You can't leave it under the broiler and forget about it. You gotta be right next to it. So I'm gonna get my torch on, and then I'm just gonna nicely torch the pie until it's kind of like golden and delicious, nice and easy. Look at that, it's like a wonderful toasty marshmallow on top. And that is my lemon meringue pie. Let's get a slice and give this pie a taste. I have a little bit of hot water here in my knife. I'm gonna put my knife in the hot water. Anytime I have a sticky topping like this, I like to cut into it with a hot knife or a warm knife. I have my plate, I have a spatula, and my pie, I usually like to set it in the fridge overnight before I slice. I didn't do that here, so if it falls apart a little, forgive me. Again, I'm not a pastry chef. I have a towel, my knife is nice and warm. I'm gonna slice down and through the crust, back into the water. Let it get warm again. Wipe off any residue. Cut again. And let's see how we did. Okay. Look at that. Not bad. Not bad at all. I lost a little crust, but I'm okay with that. So let's take a look at the inside. Look at that. Let me get my R2-D2 tasting spoon and let's taste this pie. I'm gonna get myself a nice bite. Make sure you get the meringue in there because it kind of cuts the lemoniness. What I love about this pie is it's like harmonious. You have a fluffy kind of marshmallowy topping, a sharp lemony interior, and a nice beautiful vanilla and like kind of crunchy crust. It's a wonderful pie. You need to make this at home. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. If you did, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell to get notified when we have a new video out. We do one every week. T-shirts are available in the description down below. We have a P.O. box down there as well. I want to thank my patrons on Patreon for supporting us. Thank you guys so much. And that's it. That's my lemon meringue pie. I'm Chef Frank. This is Proto Cooks. Have a good one.